Yeah. Oh my lord. It is the fall season, autumn, if you will. Shout out to all the girls named Autumn out there because name your child Fall. It don't sound right.
It don't.
You know? Hey, a lot of wrestling news has hit. A lot of wrestling content has hit. I think perhaps some of the most anticipated wrestling content of all time has hit the airwaves, the stream waves, however we determine waves in this era and this year of 2024. And you know, you know, we about to talk about it. So, man, without further ado, it is time to talk about wrestling like nobody else in the world, which means it is time for the first Black Champ podcast. And yeah, in spite of it all, I am still the pick, the podcast Intercontinental Champion, Camp from the Port.
And I am JR Bang. Make sure you rate, like, subscribe, download wherever you get your favorite podcast. Barbershare Network is the home. Make sure you watching us on the Barbershare Network YouTube page, the Twitter page, along with where you can always get First Black Champ, man, which is the group page, the YouTube page. Make sure you follow us on everything at the FBC POD and get that merch. You see Camp with the hoodie on. Look, man, it ain't no other place to start. Even though it's been wrestling going on, of course, we got Swerve in the news talking about black wrestlers. We'll get into a little bit. We got Bad Blood predictions. Bad Blood is next week in Atlanta. Feels weird that we're already basically into October.
Facts.
So the third quarter is over with. It's now time for the fourth quarter. Go ahead and put the fours up. Not the gangbang, but the significant to let everybody know it's the fourth quarter. Just like you do in college football. It's Bears today, so you already know when we record this Bears after this. So outside of that, man, it's Vince McMahon all day. The documentary dropped on Wednesday, and from people who are not wrestling fans, people who are fair weather, casual wrestling fans, I've heard different opinions on this. I've heard different opinions on this. But then you also have the wrestling fans who have seen different documentaries. They've seen Dark Side of the Ring, and then just stories that you hear across your years as a wrestling fan. So before we dig into the doc, what are some of your thoughts on the doc? Being as we've seen it, we've seen the Dark Side of the Ring stuff. We've heard all of the rumors that's been out there in various stories. What were your thoughts on the doc?
So, my very first thought on the doc, and this is when I got to the end of episode 6. I said, wow, protect the business at all costs. That was my original thought. And I'm going to stay with that thought because I think that was going to be the entire, premise as far as the cast goes. I think the makers of the doc were definitely indeed trying to get like their O.J. Simpson moment. I think they were trying to get their Menendez moment, their Dahmer moment. I think they were trying to do their own version of American Greed, starring Vince McMahon Jr. I really believe they saw it because the first 2 episodes, I'm like, oh, they're getting right to it. But once we got to episode 3 to 6, I think for me, and because you actually have a wider database of wrestling memory than I do. It's kind of just confirmed a lot of things after episode 2 for me, and that was interesting. I'm gonna stop there because there's a lot more I got to say. But my first thought: protect the business at all costs.
Yeah, we gonna get into this episode by episode, breaking down some of the stuff. It wasn't too much that I did not already know. Well put together, Doc. It wasn't too much that I didn't already know. There was a couple of things that I had text you and Jonathan Hood. All right, okay, I didn't know this. This shit, not only did I did not know this part of it, but this is nasty.
Yeah.
This is wild. I don't know how you don't get in trouble during that shit, right? So, but it wasn't too much that I didn't already know, but I did think it was well put together. Let me just say that. I thought it was well put together. I thought it was some things that could have been dug in a bit more, but I'm not going to trip because it's 6 episodes. They're, an hour long? You can't always say, you got to fit everything into it. I'll talk about some of the things that I wish that they tackled a bit more at the end. But let's get into the first episode. So the first episode of the Vince McMahon documentary entitled Junior, it talks about Vince's childhood a bit more. It wasn't a lot of stuff that we've heard Vince McMahon dealt with abuse from his stepdad and stuff. They didn't get into they didn't go too deep. Let me just say this. They go into him and his father's relationship. How I guess he went in to hug his dad, but his dad didn't hug him back or some shit.
You know what I'm saying?
You can tell he has like issues when it comes to, I guess, the parental side of things, which kind of reared his ugly head a little bit later in the show.
Shoot, I would say the entire doc.
Well, you say the entire doc. Especially when one of the storylines that we heard that was thrown around was confirmed, but we'll get into that when we get to that episode. Yeah. I wish, we could start to say this during this joint too. I wish that they would have went a bit more into the WWF Capital Wrestling Corporation. I wish they would have went a little bit into detail on how that was set up. From what I've read, there were 6 people who owned the Capital Wrestling Corporation, which was the parent company of the WWF at the time. Mm-hmm. And one of those men was Gorilla Monsoon.
Yeah.
And how basically Gorilla Monsoon was supposed to be next up. But Vince was like, nah, Dad, let me go ahead and boom, boom, boom. Yeah. So he said, you have to go take care of the homies, though. Like, you can have it. I'll sell it to you. But you got to take care of the homies. And they all got lifetime contracts.
Yeah.
So they were lifetime employees of Titan Sports, WWF, until whenever. I wish they would have went more into that, just to give a little bit more details into what, like Vince didn't just walk up to his dad and was like, yo, let me go ahead and buy this thing.
Right.
He had to prove it out to his dad. I wish they would have went into a little bit more detail in the proving out, especially with their relationship, which you will find out later in the episode.
Real quick on that, because I feel the exact same way. I need an hour on that. Because, as I come into watching wrestling, I just think that Gorilla Monsoon is just one of the greatest commentators in the world. You know what I'm saying? Him and Bobby Heenan. And it's like, man, how do you get to there? I also think it's important to tell that story because I do think that Vince selling or just putting Gorilla Monsoon in position to run the WWF versus what happened, I think we get 2 very different WWFs at the time. And I think it's very important to highlight that because it's like, man, I mean, we hear the stories and we know the stories, but to hear it from that angle, to hear that Gorilla Monsoon was actually next, but Vince had to buy it. Like, this was not a nepotism play. This wasn't even I think you know the business well enough to even manage it. It was like, look here, kid, you just got here, but this is my guy.
Right. So, as you said, there are 2 different worlds. if Vince McMahon gives the company to Gorilla Monsoon compared to his son. Now we all know about Vince's whole thing about making the company national, going into different regions and grabbing their wrestlers and then snatching up their time slots. We know all of that. But one of the other things that was confirmed in this documentary, and I was surprised that it was confirmed in this documentary, that Hulk Hogan was not the first choice of being the face of the company. It was Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah. That's major considering what we've been led to believe the last 25 years now?
Man, longer than that.
Yeah. Damn, yeah, it's 2024. Yeah. We've been called to believe for over 30 years now that Vince McMahon Jr. specifically hates Dusty Rhodes and was literally serving him up to be ridiculed and diminished and just to be less than he ever was. And this doc don't say that.
No.
This doc don't say that at all.
I was surprised to hear Vince say, yeah, and basically Dusty didn't believe him. And this is the other part, like, Dusty was like, man, you capping, fam, like, you straight. But also that, yeah, I wasn't capping, but we needed somebody that had a better physical structure. Somebody that people look at as a god, so to speak. Somebody, when you look at somebody, is like, yo, that's who I want to be. And that person ended up being Hulk Hogan, who was already a part of the WWF before, who Vince McMahon Sr. was like, yo, you ain't doing that Rocky shit.
So again, look, because we're not even born yet. When I see Rocky 3, I'm, 5 or 6. But the movies happened years ago. Today, years old, I realized that one, Vince Jr. wasn't in control, and that by the wrestling owner or community, Hogan was told to not do this movie. And if he did the movie, that he was out. That's why I'm going to call cap on him in the later episode, dog. You definitely want to be a movie star. You definitely want. You need to stop that. You need to stop that. Your movies are just trash. Right?
Yeah. You couldn't tell me that if you appeared in a Rocky movie, then afterwards you wasn't looking for movie stardom. Like you can't. That'd be like me asking Mr. T and Mr. T saying that, and yeah, I call Mr. T Cap too. Like, nah, you. Bro, you nigga, the 18, like you don't get the 18 without this movie, Jack. So what, Hulk Hogan? You don't become Hulk Hogan without this movie. You were Thunderlips, my G.
Right.
You saw Sylvester Stallone and was like, it's that Arnold dude too. Like I could be one of those three. Like I have the look, I have all that. Hogan, yeah, we call cap on. I just want to be a wrestler after that movie.
Right. You're right.
But then Bob Backlund is the champ. But this is stuff from other documentaries that fills in, right? So like you said, the wrestling community didn't want Hulk Hogan to do this movie. They felt like it would pull the curtain on the industry and all of that stuff. So it's like, nah. Hogan like, nah, I'm doing that shit. But Hulk Hogan, here's what I thought as a kid. I thought Hulk Hogan was a part of the WWF when Rocky 3 is made.
Yeah.
But what I also thought was Hulk Hogan was never a bad guy. In Thunderlips, he's technically a bad guy.
Absolutely.
When I become more older and knowledgeable, that's when I find out about Hulk Hogan before Rocky 3. We find out that he's had endless matches with Andre the Giant and slammed Andre the Giant, that he was a heel managed by Classy Freddie Blassie. As I get older in my teens, I start to do my research more, and I'm like, oh, there was a whole Hulk Hogan life before Hulkamania, which that's why if you've ever heard this show, we say Hulk Hogan make you a whole totally different person and make everybody forget about everything that happened before that. It was even funny in the documentary seeing Samba Simba appearance. I saw that and I was like, oh, they kind of mentioned like, yo, when that money come in, hey, we got to do. So the Hulk Hogan that we see in the WWF is a heel. But the entrance of Hulk Hogan back into the WWF when he resigns is Bob Backlund's getting his ass beat. He loses the title to Iron Sheik. He can't get it back, but I'm going to let my protege Hulk Hogan get a shot. Mm-hmm. And that in turn creates the whole thing between Hulk Hogan and the Iron Sheik. Hulk Hogan defeats the Iron Sheik in like 6 minutes. Hulk Hogan is your new heavyweight champion. Yeah. And he brings Hulkamania with him. Yeah. That is the other part. Hulkamania was already born in AWA. They just never gave him the title to solidify what could have become the premier company or the premier region in the United States, AWA. They dropped the ball altogether so badly that Vince Jr. took advantage of it.
Now, I agree with that statement, but I want to tweak it just a little bit because that part was genius to me. You know what that whole sequence reminded me of?
What's that?
Shark Tank. Like, here's Terry, and he has this idea called Hulkamania, and I think this guy could be one of the biggest, baddest wrestlers in the world if he's just given this budget and the story. And then here Vince McMahon being the Mark Cuban of this and be like, you know what? If I can tie this to America and I can really make you American hero, like, yo, I should have you beat somebody from the Middle East. Hey, I got a guy. I know it. You know what? Hey, listen. I'll offer you X amount of dollars for 50% of this Hulkamania idea you got here. And bow, here we are. And that to me is genius because the way wrestling just was, like literally earlier that year, wrestling ain't what they do. Like, Bob Backlund is the champ. He's already got his eyes on Dusty Rhodes. I also thought of two things. Does Hulkamania work if it's Hogan versus Backlund? Does Hulkamania work if it's Hogan versus Dusty Rhodes, which is who's his original pick? And I don't know. I don't know if it works like it worked.
I'll even go as far to say this. People got to put more respect on Dusty Rhodes' name now.
Facts.
Because without Dusty Rhodes, there's no Ric Flair. Without Dusty Rhodes, there's no Hulk Hogan.
That's a fact. There is no American-made Hulk Hogan without Dusty Rhodes. And without Dusty Rhodes being like, man, I think you bull job.
And not even just that. Hulk Hogan got a lot of his style from Dusty. Mm-hmm. Admittedly. Dusty Rhodes is your favorite wrestler's favorite wrestler, ladies and gentlemen. And he is also taught the wrestlers that are taking over this industry today. Dusty Rhodes needs a lot more respect than he gets. Yeah. And that's something from the first episode. I know this is a Vince McMahon doc, but the first thing that I thought about was, yo, we need to put more respect on Dusty Rhodes, Jack.
Yeah.
We got to, and it has to start now.
Yeah. No, for sure. No, I am 1,000% with you on that because even as the rewrite of history has gone, yeah, Dusty in some top 5s and top 10s now, but the impact the impact of Dusty Rhodes now in what, 4 federations, 5? Like, nah, we gotta. Nobody else did that. Nobody else did that, and we definitely gotta look at him. Just, I mean, hey, listen. Even though I was going to give it to Vince, but when the doc was first starting, Dusty Rhodes might be the greatest mind in wrestling ever. Like, he might be number 1, and it may not even be close. And that's respect to Vince. That's respect to Paul Heyman. But man, and Dusty did it both ways. Pause. As entertainment, as the talent, as the booker, like he mastered both sides of this. The fact that other people wanted that sauce, even when he didn't believe he had the sauce no more. Apparently,
Yeah,
that's major.
yeah. So it's funny to say that, but episode 1 is like, yo, put more respect on Dusty's name and Dusty's impact. Whether it's the choices that were made, the things that was not chosen, all of this stuff has had far-reaching things. Before we get to the second episode, could there have been, whether it's national or not, do you believe that it was somebody else in that time frame, for what we know, that could have been the lead for that company?
Man, it's
because it's one name that comes to mind, and it only comes to mind because of what we learned from Dark Side of the Ring, and even kind of in this documentary. I think the only other person that you probably could have thought of and chosen is Jimmy Snuka.
Yeah, which was wild. So
it's like,
and
really love Jimmy Snuka, fam. Like,
yeah, it was it's a wild turn of events, right? A wild conundrum, if you will, because when you look at Hogan versus Jimmy Snuka, it's just like, well, one definitely appeals to a wider audience, but I officially gotta get more up to speed on Jimmy Superfly Snuka. I have to, because right now I'm not seeing it. I'm just not seeing it. And respectfully, by the way, but this is how I'm introduced to wrestling, though. See, now I'm starting to think that 1977, I'll say, to 1983 is the most pivotal time in which I missed all of that in real time. And maybe for me to sit in that moment, maybe I feel differently, because what I end up growing up watching, it doesn't translate to it could be either one of them and Vince is good.
Yeah, I think we grow up on Jimmy Snuka wearing boots and just like doing that shit. Like we grow up when Jimmy Snuka pops up at WrestleMania 5. We don't grow up with Jimmy Snuka splashing Don Morocco off the top of the cage in an Intercontinental Championship match. We don't get that Jimmy Snuka.
Right.
We get Jimmy Snuka that loses to The Undertaker in The Undertaker's first WrestleMania. He's not quite jobber, but he's not what inspired Mick Foley to be a wrestler. That's not the Jimmy Snuka we see.
Yeah.
Even when we look at when we're older now, and whether you rent the tape or you got what I had purchased was the History of WrestleMania on Columbia House. Shouts out to Columbia House. I didn't even know until I got that tape that Jimmy Snuka was the person with Hulk Hogan and Mr. T in WrestleMania 1.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa. Back then, Jimmy Snuka's the man.
Yeah.
When we grow up in wrestling, Jimmy Snuka is going up against Mr. Perfect at the Survivor Series.
Yeah.
That's what we see.
Right.
So that there's a distinct difference in that. So when I look, I'm like, damn, Jimmy Snuka was, especially at that time, was like the big highlight moment. It was the big pop. Madison Square Garden, I think it was, off of the cage, Don Morocco. Hell, learning even Don Morocco was an intercontinental champion was something for us. Right. But let's move on to the second episode, which is Heat. They kicked off the episode with my man doing the stand back performance, Vince McMahon doing that shit. Yeah. That shit's always funny every time I see it. We see, and they talked a little bit about Saturday night's main event and stuff. But a couple of things that were confirmed by other people already, but we saw it and they discussed it. Actually, was the unionizing joint.
Yeah.
That discussion to me, as somebody who has said for years, Hulk Hogan has been a heel. If it was an episode to confirm to y'all that Hulk Hogan has always been a heel and an ain't shit nigga, it is this episode. Man, I felt like Bobby the Brain Heenan when the NWO was created. This episode, I was like, man, I've been telling people this whole time since I can remember, Hulk Hogan ain't shit. I was the only dude in the hood that was like, Ultimate Warrior, a Macho Man. You don't fuck with Hogan? No. And there's some reason why I don't mess with dude, but I'm sorry, I don't fuck with him. Yeah. This episode was so impactful to me. Guess what I did party yesterday?
Yeah.
I watched Tuesday Night Titans and Primetime Wrestling. No, excuse me. Primetime Wrestling. I watched Primetime Wrestling. You want to know when I started watching the Primetime Wrestling episodes?
Yeah, when?
After WrestleMania 2. And I kept going. And I finally got to before WrestleMania. And I can't watch it in a moment.
Right.
I am barely 2 years old. But what did I do for this camp? I watched it for when the whole thing between Paul Orndorff and Hulk Hogan ends, and the Andre the Giant saga begins. I watched that episode where they showed the Piper's Pit, where Hulk Hogan came out of nowhere. It was like, yeah, Andre, you're the greatest, and you're number one in my book, and blah, blah, blah. I was like, yo, where the fuck Hulk Hogan come from? Like, he really just came out of nowhere. This ain't even about you. Andre the Giant looked at that nigga, was like, man, what the fuck? Then I watched the next episode where he challenged him to fight at WrestleMania. Andre, no. Then Bobby the Brain Heenan. And then, if you don't believe him, believe this. Yeah. Like, I watched that from when it started to when we got it. And I said to myself, man, y'all really was cheering for Hulk Hogan at this time? Like, I really was in shock that people were cheering Hulk Hogan after what I really, really sat down and saw. Like, Gorilla Monsoon is really trying to cape for Hulk Hogan and say, hey, man, he just tried to congratulate a friend. Nigga, no.
Well, see, and this is the genius of Vince McMahon. One, I want to say this too, because now for my second thought of this, back to my Shark Tank thing. Hulk Hogan only has subjective and objective loyalty to Vince McMahon. That is it. Vince McMahon and money. That is that. I am very clear now that Hulk Hogan may be the greatest POS human being of all time. He literally might be. And that is rough to say. As somebody that bought that damn workout set that Paul Orndorff had, like I had it. You know what I'm saying? I can tell you how the first cassette starts. That's how much I know. But then it also brought more life to Jesse the Body's color commentary.
Yeah.
Like that Chump Hogan line that's real heat.
It's real.
That's real heat. He's like, yo, that Chump Hogan. Hey, like now the pose downs make sense. Hey, yo, no, this is what a Roy Free body looked like. This is what like yo, everything Jesse the Body Ventura had done now in the 80s when I caught it makes way more sense now. It makes way more sense.
That shit was not kayfabe, ladies and gentlemen. That shit was pure hate.
Yeah. And you know what? Even though we don't consider it at this time, what Vince McMahon did to position Hulk Hogan effectively as he started his runoff with beating up foreigners. Like, you think about it. I mean, look, Iran. Andre the Giant is not from America, right? Like he's from France. He was like, yeah, we're gonna beat the French up too. I'm a real American. And look, that's how 80s Americans thought. Yo, F Iran, F Kuwait, F the French, F everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, Bang constantly gets on me for being racist against Europeans, and he's wrong. But that is the blueprint for what built the WWF the way it is. You don't get Hacksaw Jim Duggan over if we don't already have this inkling in our mind that, hey, yo, no, America's just better than everybody. Let's beat up all the foreign people. And that's the other underlying story that's happening with Hulk Hogan. So, again,
I realized a long time ago that Hulk Hogan and the WWE was peak 80s because 80s was peak patriotism.
Facts.
80s was peak patriotism. If you can't get a motherfucker over, just turn a motherfucker to a foreigner and you love the United States and then you good. Like niggas like Corporal Kirshner would have never made anything in life. Like he would have just been a straight jobber if it wasn't for the fact that he put Colonel by his shit.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't make it like Sergeant Slaughter them, but he had a career basically because he was Colonel. Like if Duke the Dumpster Drosy if Duke the Dumpster Drosy was an All-American garbage man, he'd probably have a longer career. Actually, going back a little bit to the first episode,
a little flag pan on this.
Yeah, a little flag garbage can or some shit. Going back to the first episode too. The building of WrestleMania and all of that stuff. What I didn't think they mentioned is that Howard Finkel was the person that came up with WrestleMania. I think that might have been missed. It has always been said that Howard Finkel gave the name WrestleMania and stuff like that, but there's that. But going back to that second episode, WrestleMania 2 looks like it almost fucked shit up because Vince McMahon was like, oh, let's put it everywhere. Yeah. Let's put it in New York, LA, and Chicago. Yeah. But they skirt past that one. Like, WrestleMania 2 is like if I were to put, now mind you, to me WrestleMania 2 is the worst WrestleMania. So my analogy might not be the best, but I'll explain in rap terms because the album don't get talked about like it should. Volume 1, Volume 1 In My Lifetime. Jay-Z's In My Lifetime Volume 1 is the WrestleMania 2 of sophomore albums. Except it should get talked about more because you did have some good moments. But
it's heat on there.
There's heat on there. You got that NFL versus wrestlers battle royal, Fridge and then Bob Fralick. It's some heat on there.
Yeah.
But it did give you know, some. They gave you Roddy Piper versus Mr. T in the boxing match.
Yeah, we got body slam.
I understand, but they skirt past the shit.
And the thing is, and just like Volume 1, what my argument has already been, but if you take off what girls like and change the beat on You Belong to the City, like we talk about this differently. And I think if Vince McMahon just picks one city to do it in, Like if he just picked Chicago,
That's right.
like because the Fridge won there, like that's why I think WrestleMania 2 should just been in Chicago, and I picked Chicago versus New York and LA because they put the Fridge over in that battle royal. So it's like, yeah, you start the night with that, end the night with Hulk Hogan beating King Kong Bundy. I think it's a win, but it's just like, yo, you're trying to do too much. Like you got it. Like we got it. You don't give a fuck about the territories. Like we get it. Yeah. You got all the top stars, but let's bring this back home. Let's reel this in, and just do this. And so, I like how they explained the closed circuit versus the pay-per-view. Like that made total sense to me, and it looked like what Vince McMahon was trying to do was pay-per-view without pay-per-view, and that's why it was that. But it was interesting to say the least. How they really talked about it, like, yeah, that wasn't really the greatest idea, and it's like, oh, but let's talk about that. Like, I want more detail. Give me 10 more minutes on this.
Yeah, I really want to get more detail about how that shit ended up being trash. But they did afterwards. They did the whole angle where Andre the Giant was suspended. Andre the Giant was going to film The Princess Bride. He came back as like Super Machine. Mm-hmm. They put the mask over him for a little bit. He also had like back surgery and stuff too, because they wanted WrestleMania 3 to be the big one. That's Hogan versus Andre. They did the whole thing about the tickets, about how they said it was 93,000, but it wasn't. It was like it was 78. I don't give a damn. There was a lot of people in the motherfucking building.
Yeah.
But
kayfabe. Come on, man.
And then they mentioned, I think Meltzer had mentioned some shit where it wasn't no torch passing moment or some shit because Hulk Hogan was already bigger. So goddamn what? Like
yeah, man. We're here for the story, bro.
Right, we're here for the story. And then plus the way we got shamed for saying that the Greg the Hammer Valentine we knew.
Right.
The way we got shamed for that, the Andre the Giant y'all niggas knew was jumping off the top rope. So right. What? It's the story, fam. That they didn't even have to mention that.
Yeah.
But the match happened. They told the whole thing about Hogan didn't know if Andre was gonna let him pull him over. He was like, slam. But Vince McMahon confirmed the story, so there's that. Because you got to confirm some shit around Hogan.
Yeah, I was gonna say that this is the only true thing he said. Like up until like in the doc, in the doc, I think it only confirmed that Hogan told the truth maybe like 3 times in his entire life, in his entire wrestling life. He may have told the truth maybe 3 times, and that's one of them.
Yeah, if this documentary told me anything about Hogan, you need 2 to 3 more people to confirm his story. Right. That motherfucker is a liar, all right? He's a liar. Hulk Hogan is a liar and a half. Like, I don't know how y'all really fuck with this dude. I don't know why y'all going to get his Real American beer. This nigga's a liar, all right? If I learned anything. Also, I learned that some of the family was like, hey, we don't like this Hogan getting all the credit shit. Yeah, that's another thing that we learned, but I understand that. They talked about No Holds Barred. They played the Dookie video part. I was laughing at that. Like out of all of the clips y'all could have chose, y'all chose What's That I Smell?
Right.
Dookie.
Like not the part with Zeus.
Yeah, not the part with Zeus.
Nothing else.
Not the fight scene or nothing. Just Hulk Hogan picking it. That I was like, all right, y'all doing too much, directors. Like y'all could have picked another scene. Y'all just want to make motherfuckers look dumb. Mm-hmm. But they did start to talk about how Hulk Hogan's popularity started to wane a bit. Mm-hmm. And Hulk Hogan did the same thing for Ultimate Warrior, like he did for Andre the Giant, and all of that. But here's my best part of the documentary.
Okay.
Before we get into the steroids piece, it was hearing Bob Costas curse. What? When I heard Bob Costas say "fuck," I say, "Yo, whoa." I ain't never heard this before. This is awesome. We getting real. That was my favorite. That was the only pop. If we want to put it in wrestling terms, that was the only pop I marked out moment hearing Bob Costas say "fuck" in Bob Costas' voice. Because it's like, yo, we're used to hearing Bob Costas with the montages before NBA on NBC and being the voice, the intellectual voice of our sports fandom. But him basically saying, and they was doing too much with that WrestleMania 7 Hulk Hogan Sergeant Slaughter shit. Yeah. I thought I was going to get killed. And hearing him say fuck was what I marked out. Not even go front.
No, Bob Costas is a G. Bob Costas is a G. I like it.
So I'm with it. But they start going into the steroids thing. And they made the steroids thing seem longer than it actually felt to me. And I'll get to that a little bit, but they start talking about Dr. George Sahorin. Vince said, hey, I cop some shit off of him. I cop some work, but it wasn't illegal to be getting that shit, but it was illegal to sell them, and he was selling it. Look, I like being swole. I want to be around swole niggas, basically. Like, that's what it felt like Vince McMahon was saying. It felt, that felt nasty, basically. That felt nasty. Where if you just think about it in our terms, Vince was like, yo, in order for this product to be what it is, man, we need swole dudes. And I enjoy being swole. I want to do this bodybuilding shit because I think we should be seeing swole niggas. But it just didn't work because all they was doing was taking steroids, and I wasn't trying to do that shit, especially, with what I got going on in my life. But the MVP of the documentary, the Dave Chappelle Hater of the Year of the 20th century goes to
award.
The Lifetime. Get this nigga a Hater Lifetime Achievement Award. Phil Mushnick of the New York Post. Man, that was something that I learned in this documentary, that nigga hated Vince McMahon and wrestling and was willing to do whatever to take it down.
Yeah. Phil Mushnick, the third thought that I have for this doc. Phil Mushnick is literally showing you that haters will never prosper. They'll never prosper. And I want to explain it in the terms of this documentary. If Phil Mushnick would have went after the correct targets, he would have got Vince McMahon out of here, because potentially he had a better chance of getting him out of here, because he would have forced Vince to make some decisions that would have went either for or against his own organization. Like the steroid, because we're on the steroid piece. Phil Mushnick doesn't want to go after the doctor. He's going after Vince McMahon. And Vince McMahon is like, well, hey, I'll come clean. Yeah, I use steroids. But he was like, but I ain't wrestling. I don't care. Like, you know what I'm saying? When he come clean and say, yeah, I do use. Yeah, I cop from dude. Yeah. So what? You already got to get off Vince on that note. But no, he wanted to build this smear campaign that says, yo, well, I hate Vince McMahon, so I'm just going to try to take down the whole WWF, versus the aspect of what we see a lot now today is that, hey, dude associated with your organization, he a part of your company. Hey, well, he do X, Y, and Z, so what y'all going to do about that? You about to fire dude? You about to cut his pay? What you about to make him do? And then people got to step down. People got to resign. Like he should have put the doctor on blast and then made Vince decide if he was going to fire dude or find a new doctor, and he didn't do that. He keep trying to pin every single body on Vince. Like his whole entire life ends up being dedicated to finding all the stuff that Vince McMahon had did. And this is where I disagree with Bruce Pritchard, because he was like, yo, this is like a slander campaign. Y'all trying to bury Vince McMahon. I don't believe that happened at all. I believe that if you have a coherent, common sense deemed mind, you could be like, okay, he wasn't loved or hated by everybody, but a lot of his early issues were the people around him.
Yep.
But y'all wanted to blame the dude with the most money, and that is y'all problem.
Yeah, if Phil Mushnick would have got the surrounding people, somebody would have flipped.
Yeah.
Somebody would have flipped. Now, he did in some cases help out in talking about some of those people around him. The Ring Boy scandal was the other joint that I was like, okay, now I did not know about this. Now, I knew about the whole thing with the Barrio and the whole thing about that was on Donahue, which is the whole sexual misconduct thing. I knew about the accused raping of the female referee.
Yeah.
I was today years old when I learned about the Ring Boy scandal.
Man. Same.
And how there was a ring announcer who would scoop a black ring announcer at that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yo, I was real quick. That was the most heartbreaking moment in this doc for me because one, it's a black dude I had never heard of, so he literally has been kind of scrubbed out of history, as far as the WWF is concerned, and this is where we come to my third and my fourth thought, because now I officially love that Tony Atlas is in this doc. At first, I ain't gonna front, because he did show up like Fred Flintstone at the Water Buffalo Lounge with the you know what I'm saying, with the joint without the hat on, right? But Tony Atlas, I do feel that Tony Atlas is the most objective black voice that we have as far as Vince McMahon. I'm not saying that everything, I didn't agree with everything he said, because you grab my meat and you a dude, you may not be able to see for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Right? So, but I guess that's how bad he wanted to be a wrestler. Hey, listen, I feel about that the way I felt about what Terry Crews said, and I'm on my side of the fence. That's it. And look, I will go get a regular job. Everybody knows it about me. I will go get a regular job, bro. Don't touch my meat. Don't touch my body if you're a man. How about that? Just don't put your hands on my body.
Hey, I ain't gotta say much more to that.
Right.
Hey, he grabbed my pecker. Hey, man, I'm trying to keep a job.
Hey, yo, even homie was like, what?
Yeah, he grabbed my pecker. Like,
I was like, and the thing is, this is Tony Atlas. It's like, yo, like as big as you are, you let that happen? That's what the what was. The what was, and you Tony Atlas, but you Tony Atlas at the time, though. Yeah, you not Saul but you Tony Atlas. What you mean he did that to you?
What the fuck is you talking about? He just over there just boom. Like, you gonna allow it?
Yeah, that's so that was nuts, right? But again, Phil Mushnick to Tony Atlas, thoughts 3 and 4. The whole Ring Boy scandal, that was terrible. That was crazy. And now I think this is the first blurred line in the WWF Vince McMahon type of situation, because what was interesting about this part, about the Ring Boy scandal, is that, everybody eventually, you can say, spares, saves, and then puts over Pat Patterson. What I took from it, and I'll let you take over from here after this, is like, hey, this Ring Boy scandal is crazy, but this ain't Pat. Pat a homosexual, but he's not a pedophile. We stop that. It was like, yeah, maybe they all like boys, but he don't like the young boys. He's not doing this. He's obviously doing some other things that don't fall in line with wrestling male testosterone culture, but he ain't that. And I think that's important, because who knows? Maybe the original connection that Pat had with Garvin and the other dude was like, so we all gay. Oh, bet. But then little ring boy comes through and they're like, yo, I got something on deck. He was like, whoa, hold on. I have my eye on Don Morocco. I don't know what you know what I'm saying? No, I have my eye on Tony Atlas. I don't know what you doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, no. Like, have you seen Tony? Like, these niggas. And he was like, so I ain't on that. And I think that is important to specify, because although I'm not a member of the community, I had to deal with a work situation in this regard, to where sometimes people perception of you on your lifestyle can cause unwanted problems. So, I did think it was respectable that they was like, yeah, Pat Patterson was gay. He was a homosexual male, but he wasn't on that though.
Yeah, they spent enough time on it where I said, this ain't a Vince McMahon documentary at this point right now. They talk this is more of a Pat Patterson doc right now.
Yes.
Because I was like, okay, we're spending a lot of time on this.
Mm-hmm.
But I did get this. Like, everybody was like, yo, you can talk all that shit y'all want, but Pat Patterson is one of the good ones.
Yeah.
That's also how it kind of they wanted to make sure that was known. Like, he one of the good ones, man. Let's make sure we know that.
Yeah, and that's number two where Phil messed up. Hey, yo, you want so bad to tie Vince McMahon to this ring boy scandal, when really you should have went after Garvin and the black dude and the other dudes and be like, hey, yo, you got pedophiles working for you, right? What you gonna do about that? Not saying, oh, he's got this is what they would call it today, he's got a sex trafficking ring with little boys. Like, you can't do that. You gotta be crystal clear, because even Vince McMahon, he even speaks to it later. He's like, yo, when they say you this, then you this. And like, it don't matter what you can prove after that. And he's right. So that Phil, again, that's hating will never get you nowhere. And Phil Mushnick, number two. That's why.
Yeah, so but that was something that the ring boy side of it was something that got me. They talked about Reader. I think Chatterton was a referee who was accused of rape, and the red herring in all of this is when they did the investigation into the money of the WWE. They did that investigation, and there was a woman who received a multi-million-dollar settlement from the WWE, being accused of rape. Put two and two together. He says he ain't do nothing wrong, but he gave her a couple of million to make this go away. Which it definitely turns out that Vince McMahon will pay the freight to move some shit out the way, because they did mention the Jimmy Superfly Snooker moment that was mentioned on Dark Side of the Ring.
Yes, I'm sorry. I just want to rewind just real quick. Just 15 seconds, skip back. I do believe that Vince McMahon, that was his first I'm stepping out on Linda move. And the girl was like, hey, I'm sorry. We can't victim blame, but you know where I'm going with that. I do believe that two things could virtually be true at the same time, but the fact that he highlighted in his own way, I was definitely hitting chicks while being married, and it was wrong, but I did not stop doing it. And I think there should be a doc on more of extortion attempts on Vince McMahon than maybe trying to prove that he's the R-wordist.
So I definitely believe that, especially in the 80s, there's more opportunities to extort people to get stuff out of them than things may happen. Now, I don't know if it's this, but I think if you looked at the 80s, I think you saw an uptick in lawsuits for certain shit. Mm-hmm. That's why we'll say that's why I believe, just kind of putting in a moment that I thought in this doc, if more people just flat out went after him and got him arrested for the shit that they said he did, instead of suing him or doing what Phil Mushnick was doing, that's probably not even the WWF right now. Like, literally.
Facts.
The federal government, even if you look at that case, ain't really have shit, but they was like, we don't fuck with dude. And that's one of the few times the federal government gets it wrong. Normally the federal government, when they get you, you're gone. Like, they just need you to confirm. But we got 90% of the shit. Even with the Hulk Hogan shit, as we'll find out, they gave Hulk Hogan full immunity. And Hulk Hogan was like, nah, none of that shit y'all talking about was happening.
Yeah.
Which, again, don't trust Hogan, niggas. Like,
Bobby Heenan was right, though.
Bobby Heenan was right. But they started talking about the federal government, how he feels like that they're bullies. So it lets me know that Vince McMahon is squarely MAGA. Like, Vince McMahon is squarely MAGA off the whole thing of, hey man, they tried to fuck me over and they did too much. And that's the same shit that Trump has been talking about. So I know and understand why Vince McMahon is MAGA.
I understand why Vince McMahon is MAGA. I understand why Vince and Trump are friends.
Yep.
Like, everything, everything in this doc was like, but here's the thing. Y'all hate him, and you moving off hate. You not moving off facts. You moving off emotion. And that's how he weaseling out of everything. Hey, listen, I'm not here to say that Vince McMahon is a great or a perfect guy. I don't know him. But what we seeing now, because we're on episode 4, right? As we're talking?
Yeah.
As we're on episode 4, what we are seeing is
no. We're still on episode 2 going into 3.
Okay, so we in the first 3 episodes, and what we are witnessing right now as this doc is happening is that, hey, here's a dude who met his father as a teenager, bought his business from him, took it to another place that nobody saw it going, and you just don't like it and or him. But you're trying to put him in his name and too much stuff that ain't got nothing to do with him. So he looked like he Teflon, when really you just gotta just leave dude alone and maybe let him self-destruct on his own.
Well, let's say directly not involved.
Yes, directly not involved. Yes.
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 And that's what I kind of got. This is not caping for Vince McMahon, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, no.
This is faulting the people who are going after him.
Right. Strategy all jacked up.
If I'm looking at the first 3 episodes of this documentary, the WWF should never have made it.
Yeah, facts.
But everybody, even from a wrestling standpoint, they hated him enough that they tried to ignore him. And then he couldn't be ignored because he had the money. Then the federal government just was like, yo, he's a dumb wrestling guy. We can get him. And it turns out that he was smarter than that shit.
Yes.
Vince McMahon, if I learned anything from the first 3 episodes, we shouldn't even be taught. There should not even be a podcast dedicated to wrestling if they do it right. Yeah. Vince McMahon ain't been shit for years. Y'all just going about it the wrong way, and it took y'all a minute to actually do it right. We'll get to that. Let's go to the screw job episode. Which,
wait, what about Snooker? I'm sorry, because I cut you off.
Even with the Snooker shit, like if it is true that he went into the post, like if the dark side of the ring shit is true, that is proof positive that this nigga ain't shit, and y'all doing this the wrong way. Y'all going after this man the wrong way, but he know what he doing is right. If the way that they presented it on Dark Side of the Ring and the way that it was presented here was 2 different things. Mm-hmm. They said my man came up into the police station with a suitcase. They didn't.
Yeah.
But Dave Meltzer said the same shit. That shit just magically disappeared until when they arrested his ass before he died. So that's what I'm saying. Like Tony Atlas said something. I think it was this episode that he is 110% right. Yo, if y'all really knew what went on in wrestling, y'all think of us as the underbelly of the world. And you know who probably knew that after doing his research and just didn't go about it the right way? Phil Mushnick.
Yeah.
Phil Mushnick was like, oh, no, fuck all these wrestling motherfuckers.
Right.
They nasty, they womanizers, they take steroids, they do this, they do that. He just didn't go about it the right way. He went about it in a journalist way with the hit jobs. But when you have what you have, with Hogan being on Sports Illustrated, the WWF, being at the top of the food chain right now when it comes to entertainment, they took over the 80s. It's gonna take more than some editorials.
Yeah.
To take them down. All right, that is. So now let's go to the screw job episode. They start with the Wendy Richter shit.
Yeah.
When they started off with that, I knew where we were headed, and this is when I was like, okay, here's the WWE or FI love and know.
Yeah.
So let me first say this about the Wendy Richter shit. If everything they said about this shit was true, Wendy Richter got to sit her ass down.
Yeah,
Yo,
facts.
you dropping the title today. Ain't no,
Right.
you dropping the title today. So on that one, Vince was well within his right to get his belt off of her. If he not go, this ain't a real sports thing. This is entertainment, my nigga.
Yeah, baby girl, you're not Cyndi Lauper. What you mean?
Like Cyndi Lauper is Cyndi Lauper.
Right, you
ain't
with her.
You just with her. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, here we go. But here's when I realized that this steroid trial was a little bit longer than I thought, or at least it felt like it due to this doc. They start combining the steroid shit with WCW Hulk Hogan. And I was like, wait a minute. That shit went on this long?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, it's interesting because, and I'll tell you only why I remember it, because I remember Hulk Hogan debuting on WCW and he just looked smaller.
Yeah, he was like 275. That's when we started being billed as 275. But I didn't put it together that the steroid trial was in 1994. Hulk Hogan debuts in the summer of 1994. So yeah, Hulk Hogan, that was nasty work.
Absolutely. You go like, hey, look, and this is another reason why Vince gets bail. Why does he get off scot-free? Because Hulk Hogan goes to Arsenio Hall. He lies even after Vince was like, yo, just come clean. Like, yo, it's cool. Come clean. He's like, no, I've never taken steroids either, brother. Like, I was like, oh, what are you doing? And then, like, he leave in the aspects to get the heat off of everything going on. And then he goes sign another contract because you shoot whack TV shows and movies.
Yeah, I didn't realize the steroid trial ended in July of 1994. Hulk Hogan signed in June. So I was like, oh, I did not realize the connection.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, so that's screw job number 2.
Yeah.
There's the reap what you sow moment that people, I think, was expecting to happen to Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
You have the walls closing in on you. Your main attraction leaves and he goes to the competition, and you out here fighting for you and your company's life. And when you're acquitted, I think Phil Mushnick and others was like, oh shit. Which also let us know that after the steroid trial, this is probably the first time when Vince McMahon is like, yo, I'm Teflon, bitch.
Yeah.
He's DJ Drama and Irv Gotti after dealing with Fed cases. Like, nah, I'm out here, nigga. Now he didn't have the failure of things that happened like Irv had afterwards. Right. Maybe he's feeling more like DJ Drama. But they start talking about the steroid trial. They talk about Hulk Hogan testifying and all of that shit. They go up in that deal, but then they start talking about they start talking about WCW.
Mm-hmm.
And hearing the USA executive say, one, hey, if he would have got found guilty, that shit would have been off TV. But also, it was USA that went to the WWE and was like, hey, man, cut that Nacho Man shit out.
Yeah.
But Ted Turner was like, yo, I think this shit's funny. Like, that shit was hilarious to me.
And it's hilarious to me because that kind of explained the success of both. Because I thought all that billionaire Ted Nacho Man's, I thought all that was trash. I thought it was super stupid. And I was like, yo, why do they keep doing this? This sucks. So, but Ted Turner is laughing his ass off at it. But yet, the USA was like, yo, nah, this week. you gotta get rid of this.
It lets me know that rich niggas laugh at other rich niggas when you're richer than them.
Facts.
That like, if anything, that whole thing to me made me realize that Ted Turner was like, oh, look at this broke ass nigga trying to get everybody
right.
laughing
he was
at
like,
me.
oh, that's funny.
A whole ass billionaire fan. This shit's hilarious. Y'all see this shit? Nacho Man, like this shit. This is hilarious. Maybe we should buy this shit and we should put it on Saturday mornings on TNT.
Hey, to do a callback quick to Volume 1, Ted Turner did the y'all rapping ass niggas, y'all funny to me. Selling millions being you, but still you want to be me. So, hey, yo, I was like, yo. Like, he laughing because he's like, no, I got $1 billion. That's what he wasting his money on? That's what he's spending it on? Yeah, hey, yo, man, call Tom Zink. Tell him I got something extra for
you. We ain't worried about this shit. Then they start going in a bit of detail into the curtain call, which something that I did not know, and maybe I missed it, that Vince McMahon approved the curtain call. He was like, "Oh, go and do that shit."
Yeah.
And then when it happened, was like, "Oh, that's the shit that I agreed to." Oh, fuck. Man. So hearing Triple H again said that he had to eat shit and like it was hilarious when you look at what ended up happening in the end with WCW being bought by, like, Triple H may have lost, but won in the end.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So and hearing Shawn Michaels say, "Man, I thought that kayfabe shit was over." Shows you how high Shawn Michaels was. Like,
right.
Shawn Michaels was high as fuck.
What is interesting here? It's everything is perspective with Vince McMahon on this screw job episode, because I'm sure in Vince's mind he meant, oh, you want to do something after the show? Okay, yeah, bet. Y'all go out, kick it, have a beer, whatever. I don't care. Like even though I know he said, like, after the match, I think Vince always thought, oh, the light's gonna hit, people gonna be leaving the arena, and we just gonna we can go to Waffle House together, or we could be seen outside, maybe signing autographs or whatever, maybe like later. I don't think he okayed for the match to end and them to come right out and start kicking it and showing love. I don't think he agreed to that. And they were like, yeah, no, this is what we're gonna do. And it was like, kayfabe is over. One, Shawn Michaels was obviously high, but two, that's how much the Clique ran the WWF.
Yeah.
To the point where he was like, oh no, everybody know we kick it. Hey, newsflash, buddy, the 13-year-old here in Freeport, Illinois, I did not know that. I didn't know. like when in the 90s, I did not know that. Like, I had no idea y'all were friends. I had no idea that this match in Madison Square Garden ever happened. And none of that. I didn't know anything about contracts, anything. So no, Sean, you're wrong.
Yeah. It just shows how he was high. How high he was getting. Then they start getting into the Montreal screw job. The part of the stories that we already know.
Yeah.
That pretty much everybody did have some type of knowledge of what was going to happen. And then they They get into that it led to the Mr. McMahon character. If you're a wrestling fan, you know this already. But it feels like the Doc took a dark turn.
Boy. After
episode 3. And now it feels like, okay, he got into his bag when he became Vince McMahon and Mr. McMahon. And when he became Mr. McMahon, he went from Vince, the guy that did everything he could for the business, to the guy that's now ready to kill everybody moving when it comes to this business. And that's when we get to episode 4. Now, this is part of the story of Vince McMahon I did not know. And I know that a lot of people, even when we put our social clips, people be trying to jump down on us, not thinking that we know our knowledge. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are knowledgeable people. I know about Dr. Jerry Graham. Dr. Jerry Graham in the Florida territories was major. And his son has been in this business for years. And again, like people before our time that have been very impactful in this business, Dr. Jerry Graham is one of the greatest heels of all time. And Vince McMahon said that he was a heel, and one of the main reasons why he liked him, because he never liked the good guys. What I did not know is that Vince and Dr. Jerry Graham were cool. They had a relationship. He kind of looked at him as a mentor. He dyed his hair because of Jerry Graham, and he drove him around and shit. And if you know anything about the story of Dr. Jerry Graham, just go look at it at Dark Side of the Ring.
Yeah.
He was a very flamboyant character who had a lot of vices.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of vices. Whew. So when they started the episode with that, I said, I see where we going now.
Yeah.
We going to hell. Like, this is where we are headed to hell. And we're about to get an inside
with a detailed explanation.
Yes, we are about to get a detailed look. Because it's not even the fact that they ran the disclaimer at the beginning. It was, yo, Dr. Jerry Graham. And I was like, oh, if you just looked at the Dark Side of the Ring, you like, oh, okay.
Yeah. That's your man's? Oh. Yeah. Now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, we about to go. And then like you have Eddie Graham, who also had his issues and everything.
Yeah.
That whole Graham family.
Yeah.
I think like Mike Graham, who, even though he had his vices, was like the good one out of the Grahams and all of that stuff. But they start getting into that. I said, yeah, we're about to take a turn. They start talking about that, the Montreal Screwjob, and how it turned into a bigger business because it birthed the Mr. McMahon character. And how the fight of they get into the Monday Night Wars. We know this. They get into the birth of the Monday Night Wars, or at least the Attitude Era, and finding out that the Attitude Era pretty much started off because Shawn Michaels put some gauze in this shit. Was basically like, okay, y'all could have kept that story. Yeah. I really wanted the Attitude Era to start off in a whole different way. Yeah. But Shawn Michaels got fined, and then Vince McMahon was like, yo, we need some attitude. It was like, oh, the Attitude Era.
I'm gonna stick with my Brian Pillman actually started the Attitude Era with the Booker Man moment. I'm sticking with that. Y'all can stick with what they said, but I'm sticking to the Booker Man moment on WCW between Kevin Sullivan, rest in peace, and Brian Pillman, rest in peace. And I'm starting it there.
But you know something that was confirmed to me, Kent, from the port?
Yo.
And that's why this will always and forever be a part of the show. That, we ain't really going after the 12-year-old. We're going after what demo? 18 to 34.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've been telling y'all this as somebody who works in media, that anytime that y'all get mad when y'all don't see certain people, don't blame the Booker Man. Blame white men, ages 18 to 34. If they don't want to see you, they ain't putting you out there.
No.
Now, that made me feel good, but they start going into the shit we already knew.
Yeah.
They start talking about Stone Cold. They showed some of the ECW stuff. They talked about Triple H being punished for the curtain call and how Steve Austin was the beneficiary with that. The King of the Ring tournament, Austin 316.
Yeah.
How all of that basically was like, oh, this shit's lit. And how Mike Tyson, once everybody saw Mike Tyson on WWE programming, it was like, fuck, this shit's over with soon.
Yeah. Man, real quick. I'm sorry.
Right.
Real quick. Two things. One, salute to Stone Cold Steve Austin for the greatest audible of the 90s. One. That's the greatest audible of the 90s. Like, wow, what a play. You ran for yourself. And two, I officially learned how different black people and white people saw Mike Tyson in the 90s.
Explain.
Because I love Mike Tyson, right? I got 2 pictures of Mike Tyson that y'all can't see right now on my wall. When he got out of jail, obviously, because I mean, this is what black culture do. We celebrate because we thought he was never guilty or whatever, what have you. But even after, you know, the biting of Holyfield's ear and all the antics, and Mike Tyson's obviously on drugs. He's out of control. There's rumors that he's broke. He has nothing. Don King took all of his money. In the black community, I would say Mike Tyson is more of a martyr / product of his environment, or a product of just getting too much too soon to be a young person, versus white America, especially white America wrestling core demo, who thinks that he is the ultimate loose cannon, that he can't be trusted, that he's a detriment and a danger to everything around him, and how we just didn't see it that way. It was just more like, well, what would you do if Don King took all your money? How would you behave if this big head boxer headbutts you? Like, man, that's Mike Tyson in Indianapolis. You think bitches ain't fucking? Like, we've totally caked for Mike Tyson the last decade, where they're like, oh, Mike Tyson, oh, is this the right thing to do?
Well, I'll go even further. What this documentary, like I said, this documentary opened up my eyes to certain things that I didn't think it was going to, because it has nothing to do with Vince McMahon. The one thing that I got out of this documentary is that Mike Tyson birthed the UFC the way that we know it right now. Because of white men, ages 18 to 34, who watched the WWE. Now, I remember when they said that Mike Tyson is coming to the WWE, he was suspended. So the first thing that we thought, not just, I don't think black people, but white people, was like, yo, so he gonna wrestle somebody?
Right.
Mike Tyson about to wrestle somebody, and when we saw him and Stone Cold interact, we was like, yo, it's gonna be Austin versus Mike Tyson at WrestleMania. That was our thought. I also remember hearing like, nah, he can't really do that because he's suspended over the Evander Holyfield shit, yada, 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 all of that stuff. So he had to be a referee. But when you look at the reaction to those white people in that audience, or everybody in that audience, if you look at the reaction when they saw Mike Tyson come out, the Titantron, and come out there with the suit, with the butterfly collar out, the pinstripe suit and everything.
Yeah.
Go look at a UFC event. It was the same old reaction. It is the same reaction. White men ages 18 to 34 at that time loved Mike Tyson because Mike Tyson was the ultimate badass. So when you look at the UFC, they love those UFC fighters because they're ultimate badasses. Before Dana White and them got a hold to it, they loved it because this was just the art of fighting and all of that shit, different disciplines and stuff. No, Dana White and them saw Mike Tyson in that ring, and they said, no, this is what we need from our fighters.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a UFC the way that we know it if it's not for Mike Tyson in the WWF, that WrestleMania, because that, to me, when you look at the fan base, that's the same fan base that we see now. Conor McGregor, byproduct. John Bones Jones, byproduct. All of
I
those,
like it.
all of those type of people.
Yeah. Yeah,
Are the
like your
people-
Chuck Liddell, your Rampage Jackson.
Boom.
Yeah.
That
Yo,
was
hey,
to-
see, I love that. See, thank you for that because I love that from Mike Tyson. I love that based on just some of the rumblings in real time for them as they're talking about that. It's like, yeah, like that's just the power of having somebody like Mike Tyson around, and you just got good people around him, or just people that are just willing to take care of the money. That's awesome. I like that. I'm gonna run with that. Thank you.
Yeah, so that is it to me when I looked at that, right? So going into it, that was pretty much the change for I think a lot of people too. At that point, the WWF became cooler to watch again because, as we had said on a prior episode, when we looked at NWA, WCW, like that NWA time, right before it became just fully WCW, and you saw the Four Horsemen just whooping everybody ass. You see Sting get his leg or his knee fucked up every other week and all of that shit. When you see all of the blood and stuff, when you see every wrestler come up in there with a tank top and some cowboy boots with some stonewashed jeans, you knew a fight was going to happen. Right. This is when the WWF started to become real, authentic to a lot of people. And then when you add Stone Cold winning the championship and the Austin McMahon thing happening, for older people, for our dads and our moms who might have watched it, hey, Austin McMahon was simply, hey, I want to fuck up my boss. And Austin is doing it. So this is great. This is awesome. But you start seeing these storylines. They start talking about this shit. And they go into also the birth of The Rock a little bit. They talked about the family history and stuff. And here's where, when I watched this, I said, Camp from the Port is going to be like, I told y'all niggas. When people of color refer to themselves as people of color, you ain't black in some people's estimation. Because if you black, you just gonna say you black. Yeah. Laz Alonso, out of all the people, I'm gonna bring up some shit that Laz Alonso said. Laz Alonso, actor, he's on The Boys. He talked about how, yeah, I'm a person of color, but I'm black at the end of the day. I'm Cuban. I'm a black Cuban.
Yeah.
I didn't hear, and maybe I missed it. Maybe I was eating some shit and I totally missed it. But I didn't hear The Rock say first black champion.
No.
I heard first person of color.
Yeah. Yep. That's
when
what you heard.
Technically, he's not the first person of color to win it because that would be Yokozuna.
Right. Your own family had already did this as a person of color because he wasn't Japanese. But even if he was, Japanese is still a different color than the white male.
So I had to look this up just in case I wasn't tripping. The Rock recalled informing Vince McMahon that he was going to make him WWE champion. The Rock said that he would be the first champion of color. Vince said, I know, but I don't see that. And here's where I will agree with that statement. I don't think Vince McMahon saw color when it comes to champions. He saw color when it came to wrestlers, though.
Yeah, for sure.
But if that person drew or was going to be popular enough, I'm going to make that person champion. There's no Yokozuna if that is the case.
Yeah.
But Yokozuna was not Japanese.
Right.
He was, and even still, the way people be trying to group people into shit, he would still be a person of color.
Yeah. Still would.
The way people be grouping that shit. But when that was acknowledged and it wasn't black, I said, man, Camp from the Port is gonna be like, I told y'all, the man I don't identify is black until there's a need for him to come out as that. He didn't even acknowledge himself as black when he was rapping with Wyclef. What is we talking? This is all what I'm hearing in my head as that point is coming across. The floor is yours.
Hey, listen. One, thank you for pointing that out. I was hoping we had a dead stop here because, man, they got 2022 Rock. What was that, 2021? So the one that's already, he's got all the success, all the accolades. That is superstar Dwayne Johnson talking to you in this documentary. And he said, Vince, I'm going to be the first champion of color. Dramatic pause. And he said, and then Vince spoke. That's what he said. He didn't say, I'm going to be the first black champion. I'm going to be the first biracial champion of black and Samoan descent. He didn't say none of that. He said, I am a person of color. I am a champion of color. The Rock does not believe he is a black person, and we just gonna have to accept that because that is the deal. And I'll say this to the other point, because I do look at wrestling and the black people in it a lot differently now in 2024 than I did in the early 2000s. And even before Kofi won the title and after it, and then in the 90s and all that. Because I think Tony Atlas said something very important. He doesn't believe that Vince McMahon is a racist. And I got to admit, I'm kind of leaning towards that side heavier than ever, because as we look at the type of humans that were wrestling when Vince first got in the business versus what they have evolved to, like half of these white guys weren't even marketable enough. So you know that the black wrestler had to be even less marketable. To me, this was also a good chance to maybe somebody get a TikTok or something from Butch Reed or somebody else, because it has to be documented that the black people that Drew got looked out for. Even on Young Rock, Rocky Johnson is literally seen as a draw. He is a big draw through the 70s. Him and Tony Atlas. So were there so many of us? I mean, again, even when black OGs is talking about wrestling back in the day, they only highlighting 4 or 5 of us.
Yeah,
It's Ernie Ladd, it's Bobo Brazil, depending on who know what. It's Butch Reed, Tony Atlas, and and the Junkyard Dog. You know what I'm saying? Like that was it. So fast forward to the damn Rock, Superstar Dwayne Johnson. That's how I'm going to refer to him now. Superstar Dwayne Johnson from the door, and I love how they built his story up as The Rock, because he even in the nation, he even emphasized on this promo how it ain't a black thing. Bro, you really don't want to be one of us, huh? Like, you just really don't. Like, that's why we don't listen to your Tech 9 record. That's why. That's why we don't listen to that.
You know what? Let me shut up.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I almost said something that was very wild, and there was going to be somebody black that says to me, "No, you're lying. You're wrong." And I was going to say,
"Hey, listen, man. Out
of respect, out of Tech 9, because it's not disrespectful for him."
Yeah, no. I got the feeling I know where you're going, and it's cool. It's cool. Hey, we'll talk. We'll talk off air. But yeah, man. Hey, listen. So again, at his wish, y'all, moving forward. Because if you saw the doc, you heard what we heard. I will no longer consider The Rock a black wrestler. He is not a black champion to me, because that is not who he wants to be. He wants to be a person of color. Even though his daddy is black, and the reason why he got into the business, his black daddy got him in the business and in the company that he flourished in. But you know what? He don't want to be black. I ain't making them black. Superstar Dwayne Johnson, you are a person of color. Respect to you and all your success.
Yeah. So you want to know one of the funniest things that I learned about this documentary as we move on from episode 4 to 5?
Yeah.
That all them niggas like, yeah, we was wilding back then. I can't look at that shit now. Like, it's hilarious to me how, and not in a bad way. It's just as a man.
Yeah.
Because there's shit that I did in my youth that if Trey does it, I'm like, oh no, hell no. We know your dad did that, so hopefully you ain't got to do that.
Yeah.
That's how the Attitude Era feels about what feels to all of these other wrestlers.
Yeah.
Like, yo,
It's wild.
that was wild, fam. Nah, I don't even know how we got away with that. That Katie Vick ankle. Yeah. Now they go to the Bret Hart thing.
Yeah, man.
This is the worst part of the doc to me, outside of the sexual harassment stuff. Because if none of that is exposed, that doesn't even make the doc.
Yeah.
So the worst thing in this doc would have been, if it wasn't for that, the Owen Hart thing in a reaction.
Yeah.
That is outside of the stuff that I know.
Yeah.
So this is removing all the sexual assault, sexual misconduct allegations, and all of that. That was the nastiest I felt about this whole documentary. Basically, Vince McMahon detailing that night and how it was dark. So not too many people saw what happened, and they came to see a pay-per-view. They didn't come to see somebody die. The show must go on.
Yeah.
That felt nasty.
Yeah.
And that's the first time, sans the sexual misconduct things, that I looked at Vince McMahon and said, yo, you a nasty nigga. All I'm going to say is the moment that you found out that Owen Hart was gone, that pay-per-view should have been stopped.
Yeah.
And I didn't watch that pay-per-view live. I just heard the next day
Same.
that Owen Hart died.
Yeah.
And Bret Hart might say something on Nitro, all this thing. That's when you can start going to the message boards and finding out shit. But I might need to go watch that pay-per-view. Because when I saw Jeff Jarrett and Deborah McMichael promo, I said, damn, why did they do this?
Yeah. Yeah.
You gotta wrestle in that? What was your thoughts?
Yeah, man. So, if nothing else, for me, Bang, this was the first thing that was definitely Vince McMahon's fault, and there was nothing that he could do to get out of it. But, as nasty work as it is, I respect him for even doubling down on it almost 30 years later. Because the other thing that I learned in this doc, and Paul Heyman, he said it too, once we get to the end. Yo, Vince McMahon only loves the business. Like, that is his first and only love, is this business. And even though it is crazy to, even when you say it out loud, a wrestler dies right before a pay-per-view and they keep going and his blood is on the mat. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, during, because it hadn't quite started, I guess. But his blood is on the mat. They've got him on the mat. They've covered him up. The house is a little dark, and now they're gonna continue with their show. And you can even look on Jerry Lawler's face, and he's like, "Yo, nah, this ain't it."
Chief.
And the thing is, unfortunately, there are no feelings in business, and I think that we've learned that in media. We've learned that just by watching a lot of things that just happen and go on in this world. And I'm not excusing it. I'm not saying it's right. But I tell you what, though, I think if given the situation, I think Steve Jobs does the same thing. I think Bill Gates does the same thing. I think we know Elon Musk would do it 3 times. um, Jeff Bezos. I don't think you could point to one multi-million billionaire in America or anywhere right now who unfortunately is not going to make that exact same call. And that don't make it right. It's just me saying like, wow. But that is literally what being all about business is truly all about. And and you can tell nobody's over that.
Yeah, and I wanna speed through 5 and 6 because now we get to the sexual assault allegations, which we've already talked about on the show.
Yeah.
Simply put, it's a lot to that. It's a lot of even with what we learned here, it's a lot added to what we already know. Where it is so much stuff where it is hard to me, it's hard to put out an opinion because there's some shit that is like, come on, y'all, like that feels extortion like, but then you start to see the Mr. McMahon character take over, and the reason why I said this is because everybody loves Vince McMahon. It seems like everybody's like, yo, he's like a father. He's this and that. Here's the most eye-opening thing about this documentary, and where I would ask you after looking at this documentary, what are your thoughts on Vince McMahon? I think the most eye-opening part about this documentary is that a lot of people was like, yo, Vince is like a father to me. But then when they say, what is Vince McMahon's legacy? Everybody was like, yo, I can't answer that shit. But Tony Atlas, the man who was around a lot of the nasty, nasty shit that used to happen in this business, he said he's the greatest promoter of all time. Yeah, there's a lot of nuances to things, but the one thing you can't take away is that this business is not where it is if it's not for him. He is the greatest promoter of all time. But when they asked everybody else that shit, I hope they actually gave that and they just didn't put it. Because if you ask John Cena, The Undertaker, Trish Stratus, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, his own kids, if you ask them what is his legacy and they say, I don't think I'm the person to answer that, that to me is bad. That to me is like taking the fifth. Fam, you should know what that man's legacy is. And even if it's a complicated legacy, you should know what that is. Vince McMahon is a complicated man. He has a complicated legacy. He's given us this business in the form that it's in, and we can't take that away from him.
Right.
There's no AEW. There's no ECW. There's none of these organizations without Vince McMahon taking over the WWF. With that being said, he a nasty nigga. Like, and that has to be said. He is a nasty nigga who's did some nasty things, and he confirms to me that there's not a billionaire that's out here that's clean. You're gonna do some things that have to be beyond the realm of imagining what we would do, because we ain't got all of this to support and do. Not caping for that. I'm just saying that I don't think there's a non-nasty billionaire. I just don't. So that's a complicated legacy. You can look at everything that this man has done, even for the people that he's done it for. At the same time, yo, he ain't shit nigga.
Yeah, hey, you right. And I think, okay, so now to my final thoughts here, because it's all going to tie in together. That what is Vince McMahon's legacy question was pretty ill, right? Because to me, it is business first, business is business, and you either family or you not. And I think that is the interesting trick bag that everybody but Tony Atlas was in. Tony Atlas is not fam, right? Tony Atlas is not fam. He's been close enough. He's been around long enough. And I think he's played his position. But Tony Atlas ain't fam. John Cena, the reason why John Cena, much like The Undertaker, much like Trish Stratus, can't really put a finger on what the legacy is, because in a way, not even in a way, do you know what the realistic answer for them is? Creating John Cena, creating The Undertaker, creating Trish Stratus, creating Triple H, DX, and CFO, Triple H, like all of those, you know what I'm saying? Suit Triple H. Like, that's the thing. His legacy are the people talking about him. And that is whether it's good or bad. Hey, look, Bret Hart obviously needs therapy. He obviously needs therapy. Because Bret Hart was Shane McMahon at one point. Even he points out, even though his father is Stu Hart, he still said that that Vince McMahon was like a father to him. But then he literally blames his father because he can't take his belt to his other job, and he blames him for killing his brother. That's how hurt Bret Hart is about the Montreal Screwjob. He's so hurt by that. He thinks that Vince McMahon killed Owen Hart on purpose. And he says that in that documentary until legal action, until investigations are done to tell him otherwise. Bret Hart literally thinks that after Survivor Series in 1997, Vince McMahon is hell-bent on ruining his whole entire life and killing his brother. And that is crazy. That's crazy to think that he would do that. But I think that's also speaking to the person that he's heard Vince McMahon be to other people.
Right. It's wild.
So the thing is, we're talking to a bunch of grown men and women who all got signed and got their big breaks when they were grown men and women. They don't want to tell you, oh, he made me. And that's why, and this is why Hulk Hogan, as much as people do hate him now, and as much as he is a POS human being, he do got a point where he's like, yo, Vince McMahon didn't like create me. I was me, but he made it what you love about it. It's that thing where, you know, they may have came up with the idea together. Again, I think of it as an episode of Shark Tank. But the rest of the way, though, Vince McMahon starts saying, oh, I'm going to make 12 Hulk Hogans. And he does it in their own special way. I have so many Hulk Hogans now. And the reason why these people can't answer what his legacy is because they got to admit, well, it's creating me. Who am I without Vince McMahon? Well, like, because everybody else answering, they come in, everybody but Hulk Hogan, they answer after WrestleMania is a success, after the Mr. McMahon character is a thing, after he's made the millions, after they've seen the plays, after he survived the steroid trial. So, like, it is difficult. That's why I do respect Tony Atlas the most in that piece of the segment, because he's the only person, I guess, either alive and or willing to talk that's just going to tell it how he remembers it, because he's so close, but not quite fam.
So we're going to rapid fire this bad blood prediction piece, because there's a part about bad blood that came out last night or this weekend that I thought was very interesting. So we're going to rapid fire this real quick.
Okay.
No, nothing but who going to win and who going to lose. Bad Blood 2024 on Saturday, October 5th in Atlanta. Shouts out to my cousin-in-law. Her son is going to be in the building because he goes to Arkansas Pine Bluff. Cody Rhodes, love black folks. Shouts out to Jonathan Hood for asking the question about Cody Rhodes and the culture He really loves us black folks.
Yeah.
But we got a question about some things around black people.
Sure.
But Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley, who you got for the title?
I have Tiffany Stratton.
Oh.
Yep, not changing. Tiffany Stratton, that's my pick.
All right, well, I got Rhea Ripley in this one, but that's interesting not to get choked the other day. Damian Priest versus Finn Balor, who you got?
I'm gonna go Damian Priest.
I'm gonna go on the Finn.
Okay.
And go on the Finn Balor on that one. CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, Hell in a Cell. Who you got? Who wins the feud?
Because this is the one, right? This is the
this
end
the
of the
rubber
trilogy.
match. Yep.
I'll go CM Punk because he's supposed to be the face and he needs it.
All right, I'm going with CM Punk as well. Nia Jax and Bayley. So of course this ain't gonna be Tiffany Stratton. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm going Nia Jax. I keep. Oh wait, no. I'm sorry. No, I'm going Bayley.
Okay, I'm going Bayley. Then Tiffany Stratton. That's who I got.
Okay.
You don't go over on me, bitch. She's going over on Bayley. and Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns versus the Bloodline. Who you got?
Oh, anything with Roman Reigns. Come on, Team Roman Reigns.
I have the Bloodline. I have the Bloodline in this one. So now let's get, before we end the show, this first black champ. We can't talk about the black stuff in wrestling that came out.
Yeah.
Swerve Strickland and Mercedes Moné did interviews on the Breakfast Club this week.
Yeah, man.
Swerve Strickland mentioned some things about race. I guess there's some people in the WWE that was concerned about how he's one of the highest paid wrestlers in the business now, and he put it on race. But then there was a tweet that I saw. It was a tweet that I saw. And in this tweet, they explained about black folks and pay-per-views, or black folks and premium live events since Triple H has been in charge.
Uh-oh.
And apparently, ain't been a lot.
Uh-oh.
Now, when we look at the matchup for what we have currently going on for Bad Blood, ain't no black people on here.
Yeah. No, it's Samoans, and it's Samoans married to blacks.
It's peoples of color.
Yeah. Signed superstar Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah. Oh man, Hood, don't make me laugh. We gotta hurry up over this. Oh wow. But there's no black people. You have Bobby Lashley. Now you have black people in NXT. You have some black people that's resigned. Cedric Alexander's one of them. But Bobby Lashley is more than likely on his way to AEW with the Hurt Syndicate, not business. You have Swerve, who's now been put up at the top of the card. And people have wondered about Triple H and race relations ever since Booker T.
Yeah, that's a fact.
And stuff. How do you feel about the lack of representation of the culture during Triple H's era?
You know,
on the main roster.
Right. You know what? I'm not going to react to it yet, because part of me thinks a lot of the things are happening because we don't have Big E. And I'm going to be respectful to that. We all thought more was going to happen for the Street Profits, and specifically Montez Ford. I think I said 2 weeks ago, yo, what's up with that?
Now, he reportedly, according to his wife, he has been hesitant to pull the trigger because he don't want to leave the homie hanging.
Okay. You know what? Hey, look. I'm glad you brought that up, because I remember saying, like, yo, what is Bianca Belair doing? So, listen. It's something to be said here. But I don't know what quite yet. I'm not gonna go off the far deep end and say that Triple H is racist or doesn't want to see black people win or succeed or strive. But I will say that you can tell that there is a change, but fortunately or unfortunately, though, he ain't force fed us nobody yet, though, and that's my dilemma. Like, I don't feel anybody's being force fed.
So I look at NXT and I look at all of the black talent surrounding everybody in NXT. There's a lot. I mean, Trick Williams is the face of NXT right now.
Yeah.
You got Jada Parker, who's been in a big spot. They just it just seems like it's black and people of color all over NXT. NXT feels like it should be on UPN sometimes. Not a bad thing. But I'm gonna read the daily this post that came from the Daily DDT on August 5th. And this is through July 31st. Black talent make up 15% of the in-ring performers on Raw and 20% of the in-ring performers on SmackDown. WWE Raw has had 31 shows to point in 2024 with black talent appearing in the main event 8 times. SmackDown has had 30 with 13 performed in the main event. Looking at all the data and the perception of the overall show, is understandable why fans are concerned about the positioning of black performers. SummerSlam featured 14 in-ring performers across 7 matches with only one black person on the entire card, and Nia Jax. This is identifying Nia Jax as black.
Hey, shout to Nia. You harder than your cousin.
Right. And this is Daily DDT that's saying that they're acknowledging her as black. Money in the Bank before that featured only 3 black performers, and Naomi Zoe Stark, who I did not know that was mixed until today. I was today years old finding that out. And Carmelo Hayes.
I just thought she had a bad tan.
I thought so too. I was today years old. So when I look at this, I think where there's smoke, there's fire.
Okay.
Here's my thought. Who is the Triple H guy that's black? That's what I'm interested in. Who, if we know that in these circles there's that one that people mess with. All right, who is Triple H black person? It can't be, in my opinion, it can't be Big E, because since he's been in his role, he's been hurt.
Yeah.
Who is that? Carmelo Hayes came to the main roster and didn't do shit until he was in this best of 7 that we didn't even know that was a best of 7.
Man, right.
Bianca Belair is Bianca Belair.
Yeah.
We know this. She was that before. She's going to be that afterwards. If what she's saying about Montez Ford is true, he don't want to pull the trigger because he don't want to leave Angelo like that. All right, that's on him.
Yeah.
Who is that person? This even goes back to what I had said last week, that if y'all gonna break up the New Day, somebody got to be Shawn Michaels and somebody got to be Marty Jannetty.
Yeah.
We eventually need to find out sooner rather than later who is that main person on the main, that black person on the main roster that is the go-to.
Yeah.
We are at a point where we are right now that we can't go backwards from what we've been seeing. I'm not advocating that every black person needs to have a belt. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, though, is where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
And if you look at the Triple H era, there's an era. Where the black people at?
Yeah.
I think that you have to start looking at Triple H funny in the light if this is how it's going to continue.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, unless
they're killing it with us, man.
Yeah. Unless he's gonna show up at a scrum and say again, hey, he said, well, I wanted it to be Montez Ford, but he doesn't want to break up the Street Profits. Like, he has to say something. He's got to get on the 4th rope to tell me, you know what I'm saying? Like, so, and again, I was going to say Bianca Belair, but I mean, hey, you know what? Bianca Belair was never NXT Women's Champion when he was there. So, Paul, we watching you. That's all I got. We watching you. because Bobby, like, because they showed it in the doc, but nothing distracts you from the fact that Bobby Lashley was teamed with Donald Trump for WrestleMania, and he's never talked about racism.
But MVP did mention that he feels like Triple H ain't no racist. But anytime you hear a black person say, "Hey man, I don't think that person racist," but they got racist tendencies.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, but we ain't really like welcome here though.
Yeah. It's like, yo, we cool, but we ain't that cool. So, all right, man. I don't have any guarantees.
Nah, predictions was enough.
Close us out.
Oh man. Well, hey, look, we thank y'all for tuning in to this McMahon Doc recap and prediction show. Hey, listen, all of you, the way you contribute to this community with your comments, your shares, your conversation, rumor, innuendo, and just plain funny and hilariousness, man, is greatly appreciated. Obviously, Bang and I can do this by ourselves, but we'd rather not because you all make the FBC POD community that much greater. So for that, we graciously thank you. And just know that whenever you want to talk about wrestling in an unconventional way, you do so by checking out the First Black Champ podcast. Pick VP DOC, and we are out. Fuck Phil Mushnick.
Yeah. That was some real hater shit.
Yeah,
He just could have did it a whole lot better.
Yeah. You almost worse than Johnny Wrestling. Yeah.